Okay, let's get into this. For today's deep dive, we are entering a really high stakes world.
Oh, absolutely. The most high stakes.
The world of kindergarten field day. I mean, this is an arena of just pure, unfiltered emotion. You've got these dramatic victories and then just crushing competitive failure.
It's brutal. And our source material gives us this perfect window into that whole ecosystem.
It really does. We're looking at Junie B. Jones' Captain Field Day by Barbara Park with illustrations by Denise Brunkus.
And, it's such a brilliant choice for this kind of analysis. I think a lot of people might just file this away under, children's literature and move on.
Sure, of course.
But that unfiltered narrative voice of Junie B. Jones, it's just so enthusiastic and, let's be honest, often deeply flawed.
Oh, very flawed.
And that gives us this raw, immediate access to how these nascent leaders and team members are processing really complex adult concepts for the very first time.
Concepts like what?
Well, things like hierarchical power, competitive resilience,
Yeah.
and what it actually means to have a supportive role on a team.
That is exactly our mission here. We're not just, recounting the plot of a kid's book. We are mining this text for actionable insights.
Right.
We want to pull out those key nuggets about leadership, about what really happens in group dynamics when your expectations just completely shatter.
And it's all filtered through this 6-year-old's very specific worldview.
Exactly. So we're basically taking kindergarten social politics and, applying a layer of professional analysis to it.
But we have to start with our protagonist, right? The lens for all this chaos. Junie B. Jones.
The B stands for Beatrice, of course.
But she would be very quick to tell you she prefers just B.
Oh, she insists on it. And her anticipation for field day, I mean, it's this grand, epic battle between her class, room 9, and the rivals, room 8. And it is just completely overwhelming for her.
It's overwhelming, maybe a little misplaced, you could say.
I think so. Yeah, we see it right away in chapter 1. Her excitement is so huge, she immediately starts shouting the news at, the first living thing she sees.
Your dog, Tickle.
Yep. And then she runs straight to her baby brother, Ollie, who is, still asleep in his crib.
And right there, that's our first real insight, isn't it?
Into her whole approach.
Exactly. This overwhelming enthusiasm that just, it leads to immediate and, totally predictable chaos.
Totally predictable. She yells, "Field day! Today is field day!" right at the sleeping baby, who wakes up, as the book says, very fast.
And immediately starts screaming his whole entire head off.
It's a perfect little example of enthusiasm just completely overriding any kind of risk assessment, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
She creates a crisis with her excitement, and then her first move is to delegate the fix.
Yeah, she tells her mother to quiet him down because, and this is a direct quote, "He is taking the edge off of my good mood."
I mean, the framing of that is incredible. The crisis isn't her fault at all. It's just an inconvenience. It's an obstacle to her own positive experience.
That complete lack of self-awareness, paired with this massive energy, that's her defining trait.
And her expectations for the day are just huge. They're almost theatrical.
It's not just about winning. I mean, she fully expects room 9 to cream room 8. That's her term.
Right.
But it's also about the performance of it all. She makes sure her whole family is going to be there. Mother, Daddy, Grandpa, and Grandma Miller.
And she notes that they're going to need lots of clapping and cheering. She needs an audience, an audience for what she assumes will be her inevitable triumph.
This need for external validation, it really sets the stage for everything. But even before she gets to school, we get this fascinating look at social communication.
The phone call.
The phone call with her bestest friend, Grace. And this is where the whole idea of bragging or tooting your own horn becomes the central conflict.
It's the first strategic conflict of the day, really. So Junie B calls Grace using this hard number she's finally memorized. 555-55555.
And Grace, who is just immediately focused on the competitive reality of the day, she says, yeah, she'll be there because she is, factually, the fastest runner in kindergarten.
A simple statement of fact.
A verifiable fact. But Junie B immediately shuts it down. She cites this organizational social rule that's been handed down from, her elder statesman, Grandpa Miller.
Right. She says, you're not actually supposed to brag about yourself like that. My Grandpa Miller said that is called tooting your own horn and is not even polite.
If you were to translate this into, professional terms, this is the kindergarten version of the imposter syndrome debate, right?
Yes. Intersecting with organizational humility.
Exactly.
Grace is just providing objective, verifiable data. It's essential for team strategy.
But Junie B is prioritizing a social rule, the rule of outward politeness over any kind of factual self-assessment.
And it's a real conflict. Grace actually articulates the counterargument so well for a 6-year-old.
Hmm.
She pushes back. She says, I am not tooting my horn, Junie B. I'm just saying the truth.
And she backs it up with critical data. She says Lucille won't run fast because she doesn't like to sweat.
And that Junie B herself is, quote, not exactly speedy.
Which is true. Grace is operating in the functional reality of field day.
She's trying to communicate, very accurately, that she is a limited resource for the team and that resource needs to be used effectively. She says, I'm going to have to give us a big lead.
She's thinking strategically. It's about the team's goal. But Junie B is just stuck in this cultural mandate that says any self-promotion, no matter how accurate or useful, has to be labeled as tooting.
And Junie B's final response is just to double down on the accusation. You just tooted again, Grace.
It's just such a clean illustration of how often, in these young social groups or even in some corporate cultures, that polite humility is valued more than confident, factual self-assessment.
Even when that assessment is totally necessary for success. It's a critical point because we see the cost of this later on.
We do.
Grace is kind of forced to mute her own strength, at least verbally, even though that strength is Room 9's single best asset.
But, despite this little conflict, Junie B just skips off to breakfast. She says she's very happy because a nice conversation always starts the day off right. She just processes and dismisses the friction so quickly.
That's a key part of her resilience, isn't it? She doesn't dwell on these things.
Not at all. And that energy carries her right into the classroom. Which brings us to our first section, defining captaincy, boss versus uniter.
So in Chapter 2, Room 9 is it's completely off the rails with excitement. Laughing, jumping, giggling, shouting.
And we get that great little linguistic detail where Junie B and her friends are running around to warm up our muscle.
And they're worried their legs are going to get clams.
Or clamps.
Until Grace, the pragmatist, corrects them. It's cramps.
Right. So the teacher, Mrs., has to step in and stabilize the whole environment.
But not for discipline, which is interesting.
Yeah.
It's to introduce the important job of picking the team captain.
And the second she says that, the competition just turns into chaos. You've got Meanie Jim and Polly Ellen Puffer yelling, me, pick me.
And Grace, again, trying to use a merit-based argument, she yells that she should be chosen because of her speed.
So Junie B, she recognizes she can't win on merit. She's not fast. She can't win on volume. There's too much shouting. So she immediately pivots.
The procedural lobbying.
Exactly. She runs up to Mrs. Desk and argues she should be captain as a reward for not shouting.
Her argument is, maybe you should make me the captain, because that would teach the other children a good lesson, probably.
I mean, that is a textbook attempt to politicize a selection process. She's not arguing she's the best candidate.
No.
She's arguing she's the best example of obedience. She's trying to invoke this kind of procedural justice where fairness is determined by following a rule, even if that rule has nothing to do with the job.
And Mrs., to her credit, shuts this down immediately and definitively. She just sends her back to her table. Sit, stay.
Like a dog.
Yes. The process has to be impartial.
So the democratic method is brought out. Mrs. holds up a basket, 18 folded slips of paper.
17 blank, one says. Captain. It's a random system, designed specifically to stop all the arguments about who deserves it.
But Junie B doesn't trust randomization, does she?
No, she relies on this blend of, superstition and intense focus. When Mrs. brings the basket over, she's digging around in it, saying she's waiting to get the right vibes.
And you can just feel Mrs. frustration building. She has to tap her foot and correct her. Vibes, it's short for vibrations.
And then the final, exasperated plea, for the love of Pete, just pick one.
It's that perfect collision of the adult need for efficiency and the child's need for some kind of ritual and meaning in the process.
So Junie B finally picks, she gets the winning slip, zooms to the front, and announces she's Captain Field Day. But what's really critical is the reaction.
What's the reaction?
The text says, nobody else clapped with me.
Ooh, that silence is just deafening, isn't it?
It is. It's that instant realization that self-appointed glory almost never earns you any external validation.
And that silence, it feeds right into her huge misconception about what the role actually is in Chapter 3.
Capes and lightning.
Right. She immediately assumes she now has raw, unquestioned power.
She's literally jumping up and down, declaring, I've always wanted to be the boss of these people, and now I am the captain of everybody.
She even asked for confirmation. Captain means the same thing as boss. Right, Mrs. Wright?
And that question, right there. It establishes the central conflict of leadership for the whole story. Is leadership about hierarchy, or is it about facilitation?
And then the fantasy just takes over completely. The superhero metaphor.
Yeah, she immediately connects captain to captain somebody or other,
And she envisions the whole outfit. A leotard, tights, a cape.
and a belt with lightning.
So she's defining the role not by its function, but by its symbolic power, by its aesthetic.
And this is where Mrs. has to deliver the crucial intervention on leadership theory.
A private meeting in the hallway.
A very necessary one. Mrs. has to stop this runaway fantasy, and she makes it completely, unequivocally clear. Team captains are not superheroes. They're not even close, in fact.
She just completely reframes the job description. I mean, she's doing an organizational restructuring on the fly.
A complete reframing.
Yeah. The captain's job is not to be the boss. It is to support the team and to keep the team united.
And she even has to define that critical term for her. Unite means to join people together, Junie B. The job is to cheer them on, to facilitate their success. It's not to command their obedience.
That is such a fundamental shift from the top-down power that Junie B wanted to this, facilitative bottom-up leadership model.
And of course, Junie B is deeply disappointed.
This is not the job I expected.
It's the feeling every new manager has when they realize that leadership is way more about cleaning up messes than it is about commanding respect.
So true. And she reluctantly agrees to this revised role, but she holds on to one non-negotiable demand.
The cape.
The cape. She insists, I wish that really, really bad, Mrs. She's lost the actual power, but she demands that the symbol of that power has to remain.
And Mrs. handles this with just brilliant managerial compromise. She finds a red towel and pins it on her shoulders.
And Junie B immediately declares it's perfect. Not just because she'll look like the real, actual Captain Field Day.
But also with that classic Junie B pragmatism, she notes she can dry my hands occasionally.
Even with the role now redefined as uniter, her focus snaps right back to the external symbol. As they're lining up, she's reminding everyone.
I am the one with the red cape. The cape will remind you that I am Captain Field Day.
So the symbol is still more important to her than the substance of the role.
And the team's reaction just confirms their cynicism. The book says, Room 9 groaned and groaned.
So the tension is already there. Junie B's ego, which is symbolized by that cape, is already weighing down the team's morale before the first event even starts.
Yeah, the team is already tired of the leader's performance before any of the work has even begun.
Okay, before we actually get to the competition and see the disastrous results of that ego, we have to pause for a second. We have to appreciate what you've called the kindergarten dictionary.
We have to. It's our section 2, and it's dedicated to Junie B's unique definitions because they provide such profound insight into how kids functionally make sense of the abstract and often contradictory adult world.
And these aren't just, funny mishearings. They are definitions based on observable cause and effect.
Right. They strip away all the abstraction and they leave this concrete transactional reality. For example, let's take the word dumped.
Okay.
Her definition is the grown-up word for when you have to find a new Ricardo.
It's so perfect. It just encapsulates the pain, but also the immediate functional requirement of the situation. It's not about emotional processing.
Not at all.
It's about the required next step, replacement. The entire adult world of relationships is just simplified to a supply and demand problem.
Or what about nursery? She notes that the room for her baby brother Ollie is a nursery. Except, I don't know why. Because a baby isn't a nurse, of course.
I mean, she's just applying sound similarity and standard logic. A nurse is in the nursery. And she reaches this hilarious but totally logical conclusion based on her current data set.
The most revealing one, though, for me at least, has to be apologies.
Oh, this one is brutal.
It is. She defines it like this. Apology is the words, I'm sorry. Except for you don't actually have to mean it because nobody can even tell the difference.
That is just, it's a deeply cynical but perfectly observed truth about social transactions.
It is. It shows that Junie B has already learned that apologies, especially the ones that are forced, are purely performative.
They're a social ritual. They're designed to stop the conflict, regardless of any internal feeling of remorse.
Right. If you don't feel it, you just deploy the words, and the system just accepts the output. It's amazing.
She also gives us her definition of being grounded.
Which is great.
Grounded, young lady, is when I have to stay on my own ground. Plus, also, you can go on the rug.
It just simplifies this really complex parental punishment, which involves frustration and restriction and moral lessons.
And it boils it down to a spatial restriction that's concrete, manageable, and easy to follow.
And what's so fascinating is how these functional definitions really reveal her operating system. She filters out all the complex emotion and abstract consequence, and she replaces it all with observable, concrete rules.
And that functional clarity is so key to understanding her immediate, unfiltered reactions to the competitive pressure she's about to face.
Exactly. Which takes us right onto the playground as roommate arrives in Chapter 4, New Thelma. We're about to meet the opposition.
And this is where Junie B has to confront her external rivals and, her past romantic failures at the exact same time.
So she immediately identifies the key players on the other team. First, there's handsome Warren, who's been downgraded.
To regular Warren.
Regular Warren. And her analysis for this is just brutal. She hardly ever sees him anymore, so she doesn't love him anymore.
It's a simple social metric. Out of sight, out of mind. Lack of visibility leads directly to a demotion in social status.
And then there's the main rival, New Thelma.
Thelma!
Thelma is the girl who caused Junie B's boyfriend Ricardo to dump her.
Because she chased him all over the playground, and Ricardo realized chasing Thelma was more fun than being Junie B's official boyfriend.
So New Thelma is the romantic rival, and now the sports rival.
And of course, New Thelma is the captain of roommate.
Of course she is. And Mrs. insists that Junie B must shake hands with her opponent to show good sportsmanship.
This is a mandated social ritual. It's meant to enforce professional civility, forcing these two opposing leaders to acknowledge each other respectfully.
And Junie B is resisting this mandated civility with everything she has. The book says she feels sickish inside at the very idea of it.
She even tries to negotiate. She offers to shake hands with the roommate teacher instead.
But Mrs. is just not having any of it. She forces the issue.
This is such a classic example of forcing compliance over genuine feeling.
It is. And when New Thelma giggles and grabs Junie B's hand and shakes it really hard, Junie B just refuses to shake back.
And Mrs. has to lean in and whisper, which is always the sign that a teacher has reached the absolute limits of her patience. And she says, wish her team good luck, Junie B, now.
And Junie B's compliance is just. It's minimal and it's highly adversarial. She yanks her hand away.
Snacks, don't touch the merchandise.
Don't touch the merchandise. I mean, what a brilliant self-defense line. She's treating her own body as this valuable, uncontaminated thing that her rival shouldn't even possess or touch.
It's a psychological boundary.
Absolutely. But then right as she's stewing in this forced interaction, this moment of powerful external validation arrives.
Her family shows up.
Her whole family shows up on the playground. And her grandpa Miller sees the red towel cape.
And he immediately validates the superhero vision that Mrs. had just dismantled minutes earlier.
He picks her up and flies her around, just like a real superhero.
And that moment is so key. It temporarily overrides the sting of meeting New Thelma and the disappointment with her new job description. So she goes into the first competition just fueled by this familial affirmation and the potent symbol of her cape.
But that initial surge of energy from Grandpa Miller's validation, it doesn't last very long, does it?
No, it does not. Because that brings us to Section 3, competitive failure and the struggle for positive leadership. The reality of field day comes crashing down on room 9. Let's start with event number 1.
The relay race, Chapter 5.
Junie B starts the race with that pure bossy enthusiasm that Mrs. explicitly told her not to use.
She shouts, "Captain Field Day to the rescue." Her cape is flying, and she immediately tries to exert hard power over the team lineup.
Right. She tells a girl named Charlotte to move because Grace, the fastest runner, needs to go first.
And she uses this aggressive command style. "So move it, Missy."
Which, of course, backfires immediately. Charlotte stomps her foot and invokes the law of first arrival. No cuts. I was here first.
It's a classic power struggle. The newly appointed leader trying to just override established social fairness.
But this is where she learns a huge leadership lesson right before the race even starts. Her hard power command fails.
But then she learns about soft power from her best friend. Grace, the actual strategic asset, just smiles, whispers something to Charlotte, and Charlotte immediately steps back.
And when Junie B asks how she pulled that off, Grace's answer is just so simple.
I just said the word please.
Please. That one word is the entire difference between commanding compliance and facilitating cooperation.
And Junie B even notes it. She thinks, please, I'll have to remember that one. It shows she's analytical, she's capable of learning from what works.
But she hasn't internalized it yet. The race starts, Grace is a rocket, she builds that big lead they needed.
The race is going well until Junie B gets tagged by Ricardo. She takes off, running like a rabbit. She's determined to win it for crybaby William, who's up next.
Right, because William admitted he isn't fast, so she's boasting that she'll run so fast William will even be able to walk, probably.
But then, the catastrophe. It stems directly from her choice of footwear. She's running faster and faster, and then her sneaker just flied right off my foot.
Now this is the moment of critical strategic failure.
It is.
Instead of just continuing, which any seasoned competitor would tell you to do, she stops. She chases the shoe. And why? Because she thinks she has good news in the middle of this disaster.
She discovers, and then shouts for everyone to hear, the wonderful news. Vel Suro.
She reattaches it in a jiffy, but that pause, that moment to celebrate a minor micro-victory of quick reattachment.
It costs Room 9 the entire race. Room 8 catches up, and they win event number 1.
It's just such a powerful metaphor for prioritizing the process over the goal. You know, she got so distracted by a tiny, solvable technical problem, the shoe, and she celebrated the effectiveness of the fix, the Velcro, rather than focusing on the macro goal, which was winning the race.
And you see this all the time. Teams will fixate on perfecting one small component, a Velcro moment, even if it costs them the entire project deadline.
And the loss immediately creates a morale crisis. This is chapter 6. The team is not supportive.
Not at all. Room 9 turns on their captain. They blame Junie B. She's told, "You loony bird, you were supposed to run in your sock foot."
The blame is harsh, and it is immediate. And Junie B actually absorbs this lesson. She reflects, it looks like Captain Field Day has learned a little something here. She gets the technical error of stopping.
And Mrs. intervenes, trying to manage the disappointment with that standard adult rhetoric. You know, Field Day is about having fun and get some exercise, not winning or losing.
She's trying to revert to the low-stakes objective.
Exactly.
But Junie B's response just cuts right through the pleasantry to the essential truth of competition.
Yeah, only what's so fun about losing? That's what I would like to know.
It's perfect. If the objective is fun, but the outcome is loss and blame and embarrassment, then the stated objective just feels false to the people participating. It's like toxic positivity in a competitive environment.
And that tension gets amplified immediately when the opposition leader, New Thelma, skips up to gloat. Room 8 is winning, 1-0.
It's the kindergarten equivalent of a passive-aggressive email about quarterly performance.
It is, and this is where we see a really excellent moment of emergent defensive leadership from Junie B. She pivots so fast.
She deploys a counter-strategy based on intentional detachment.
Right. She claims that Room 9 doesn't even care who wins and loses. Room 9 just came out here to run in the air.
It's an ingenious defense mechanism. She's reframing the loss as intentional philosophical superiority. We're not losing, we're just not trying to win because our goals are higher and purer.
And it works. Her teammates, Ricardo and Jamal Hall and Lenny, they give her high fives for making a good point, apparently. She successfully protects the team's collective ego by just denying the validity of the whole competitive metric.
But that little morale boost is desperately needed because the losing streak just gets worse from there.
Next up is the softball throw, an individual contest. And we get this immediate, powerful counterpoint to Grace's humble assessment from the beginning.
Polly Allen Puffer.
Polly Allen Puffer, who is the perfect example of that loud, unwarranted boastfulness that so often collapses under pressure. He brags, "I'm a good thrower. I'm probably the best thrower in Room 9, in fact."
And the narrative is just merciless. It does not let him off the hook for that. He throws the ball as hard as he could.
But he didn't actually aim that good, and the ball went straight down into the playground.
He immediately begs for another try, but Mrs. just moves him out of the line. The book establishes this really strong correlation between excessive bragging and immediate, humiliating failure.
The team rallies a little bit. A boy named Roger throws it all the way to the fence. But the event is completely dominated by Room 8's anchor.
Strong Frankie.
Strong Frankie. New Thelma is cheering him on as he flexes his largish and roundish arm muscle.
And Strong Frankie's throw is a decisive, crushing victory. The ball flies all the way over the fence.
Another loss. And this establishes that Room 8 doesn't just have skill, they have dominant talent concentrated in one player. A ringer.
And the losses just keep piling up. The skipping race follows, and even with their fastest skippers, Room 9 loses again.
And the losing streak starts to wear down the team's linguistic guard. You can see the shift in morale through the language they start to use.
They start using competitive slang. Lenny says they got skunked.
And Jamal Hall has to clarify. Skunked means our score is a goose egg.
And Grace, always the pragmatist, spells it out. A goose egg is a big, fat 0.
And then Meanie Jim provides the final devastating interpretation. A big fat 0 is when you're stinking up the place.
So now the team is engaging in these self-deprecating, negative coping mechanisms. They're internalizing the defeat and using this harsh, definitive language to label their own failure.
Mrs. tries to stop the toxic talk, reminding them they did their best. She even appeals to Junie B for confirmation.
But Junie B is fully cynical at this point. She confirms, yes, plus also a win would be nice. She has completely lost faith in the idea of fun as a sufficient reward.
The captain's supportive role is just completely eroded. We see this so acutely in the next event, the tug of war.
Mrs. asks for a cheer from the team captain to get them charged up, but Junie B is checked out. She refuses at first.
She remembers where her last burst of enthusiasm got them.
Right, and when Mrs. demands that she try, Junie B provides the absolute minimum effort possible.
Rah.
It's a protest against the supportive role she was forced into. She's going through the motions, but the spirit is gone.
And the tug of war is the perfect illustration of the danger of individual dominance in a team event. Room 9 actually pulls hard at first. They're very shocked that they might actually win.
But then strong Frankie, that single point of overwhelming strength, just yanks the rope as hard as he could.
And wins the event instantly.
Room 9 just slumps into silence. They are completely defeated, demoralized. They're walking dejectedly to the water fountain. They're showing all the signs of a team whose confidence has just been shattered.
So before the final event, the pull-up contest, Mrs. tries one last time to rally them. She reminds them not to be quitters.
And Junie B's assessment of the team's psychological state is just brutally honest.
Pretty much.
The morale is completely broken. There's a total refusal to even participate. Jamal Hall hides his face. Grace says, "I'm only strong in my feet."
The team is actively opting out. They're anticipating defeat and just trying to avoid any more humiliation.
And right into that vacuum of resignation, who pops up?
A strong Frankie, of course, to rub salt in the wound. He's flexing his muscle, yelling, "I'm strong all over my whole body."
And that just pushes Junie B past her breaking point. She reverts to pure defensive rhetoric.
She stamps her foot and yells back, "Stop tooting your own horn!" Room 9 has strong people, too. We have people who can do a jillion pull-ups, in fact. So there, huh?
She's back to that aggressive posturing to defend the team's honor, even though she knows she can't possibly back it up.
And strong Frankie, ever the literalist, asks the crucial question. Like who?
And Junie B just stalls. She's looking around for the impossible hero she just invented. Like, lots of people that too. She's out of options. She's out of credibility.
And that brings us to section 4, the triumph of practice and the new Super William. In that moment of absolute desperate silence, when Junie B has failed to find a hero.
A boy from room 9 tentatively raises his hand just a teeny bit.
It's William, crybaby William.
The same boy who whispered during the relay that he wasn't a fast runner, and whispered during the softball throw that he didn't want to participate.
And the team's reaction is immediate and overwhelmingly negative.
This is just a perfect illustration of confirmation bias, right? The team has already categorized William as the weakest, most unreliable link, the crybaby.
Grace points out his little arms. Polly Ellen Puffer adds that he's seen the wind blow William down before.
And Roger concludes they are going to look worse than ever. Their negative expectations are completely blinding them to any other possibility.
The narrative contrast here is just set up so masterfully. Strang Frankie goes first. He's loud, he's grunting with every single effort, performing for the crowd.
Room 8 is counting every pull-up, and they establish the benchmark to beat 7.
7, that's the number.
Yeah.
Then William is lifted up to the bar, and it's awkward. He just dangles there, not moving a muscle.
And Room 8 starts laughing, this mean, confident laughter.
And Junie B, instinctively protective now, despite her own skepticism, immediately threatens them. "Hey, you want a piece of this?"
And then the silent, stunning breakthrough.
William kicks his legs, and his chin goes up over the bar. Not just once, but twice. And as the book notes, he didn't even grunt.
And Room 9 just erupts. All that disappointment is instantly replaced with pure, astonished enthusiasm.
They start counting, and you can hear the psychological shift as their voices soar past Frankie's benchmark.
They're shouting 7, 8, 9, 10.
William finishes with an astounding total of 11 pull-ups. 11.
He is instantly a hero. It's just joyous chaos. The team piles on top of him. They try and fail to lift him on their shoulders. But the victory of Room 9 over Strong Frankie, the symbol of all their failure, is just undeniable.
And when Junie B, just completely overwhelmed, finally asks the hero how he did it, because those things are very hard, his answer is the simple, powerful culmination of the entire story's theme.
He just smiles shyly and says, I practice. That's how. I got a pull-up bar for Christmas, and I practiced every day.
Practice beats boastfulness.
Ugh.
I mean, that is such a critical insight for any learner. Strong Frankie relied on his perceived innate strength in this loud, showy performance.
Right.
William relied on consistent, sustained, solitary, deliberate practice. His success wasn't sudden genius, it was accumulated effort. And it proves that the deepest strength often comes from the most surprising and previously dismissed sources.
And this leads right into Junie B's ultimate act of transformation, her ultimate act of team captaincy.
She has a bright idea, and she whispers it to Mrs.
And she willingly gives her red towel cape, the physical symbol of the authority and the identity that she coveted all day, the thing she fought Mrs. for.
She gives it to William.
The moment Mrs. pins that red towel onto William's shoulders, Junie B declares him Super William.
This is the highest expression of that supportive, facilitative captain role that Mrs. had defined for her at the very beginning. Junie B has finally internalized the lesson.
Which is?
That true leadership isn't about possessing the symbols of power. It's about acknowledging and elevating the true strengths of your team, especially if those strengths come from the person you least expected.
And William just smiles. He zooms around with the cape flying, riding on his daddy's shoulders. Mrs. smiles and points out, see what can happen if you don't give up on yourselves. The day, despite all the losses, it ends on this note of collective triumph and redeemed morale.
But the final piece of her learning curve comes in her very last self-reflection. She notes that she didn't even ask for the cape back, and she tells herself, this is being nice of me. I am being a good team captain.
And then she laughs out loud.
She laughs because she realizes, I was tooting my own horn.
She gets it.
She finally gets it. She recognizes that even a positive self-assessment of her own goodness can fall under Grandpa Miller's rule against bragging. The moment she realized she was bragging about being nice, she understood that humility isn't just about downplaying your competence.
It's about shifting the focus away from yourself entirely.
So what's amazing here for the learner is that this kindergarten narrative provides three incredibly sharp takeaways that are applicable at any level, whether you're managing a project, leading a team, or just trying to motivate yourself.
Absolutely. The first synthesis point has to be the redefinition of leadership. Junie B desperately wanted that hierarchical boss role, symbolized by the cape and the lightning belt.
And Mrs. forced her into the role of the uniter and morale booster.
And the story proves Mrs. was completely correct. The captain's true power only emerged when Junie B relinquished the symbol of authority, the cape, to validate the success of a core team member, William.
So leadership is facilitation and acknowledgement, not command and control.
The second takeaway is that stark, actionable contrast between performance and practice. We saw Polly Allen Puffer and Strong Frankie rely on boastfulness and this showy, noisy effort.
They were visible. They were celebrated before they even succeeded.
But William represents the power of quiet preparation. His success was invisible until the exact moment of crisis. For any professional, this just highlights the necessity of consistent, deliberate effort, the pull-up bar for Christmas's work, that yields surprising results, often defying all the existing biases about who is capable.
And the third takeaway, which really wraps it all together, is the power of selfless acknowledgement.
Junie B's ability to give up the very thing she desired most, that superhero identity, to elevate William, that represents the ultimate fulfillment of the supportive team captain role.
She prioritized the morale, the recognition, and the collective identity of the team's achievement over her own personal ego. I mean, that is the definition of leadership maturity.
And it raises an important question that I think connects back to Junie B's functional vocabulary from the beginning.
Okay.
We saw her define these complex adult concepts like apologies being purely performative in these very concrete terms. We also saw her team use devastating language like skunked, goose egg, and big fat zero to describe their failure.
Even when Mrs. kept insisting the only goal of field day was simply fun and exercise.
So here's the thought. If the ultimate goal of an event is genuinely fun and positive engagement, whether that's field day, a professional brainstorming session, or a quarterly review, how does the very vocabulary we use to describe failure inevitably undermine that intended positive goal?
That's a great question, because that language, the language of the zero, it validates the emotional low. It makes the outcome feel far more significant than the stated objective ever allows for.
And finally, you have to consider Junie B's initial obsession with the cape. How often do we as adults define a role, a manager, a lead, a team captain, based purely on the perceived power symbols?
like the title, or the corner office, or just the aesthetic of power.
Exactly. Do we focus on those symbols rather than the underlying responsibility, which, in Mrs. Words, is to unite and support? That's something worth chewing on the next time you see a title, and just assume the person wearing the cape is the boss.
Because sometimes the true superhero is the one who practiced in private and then quietly, without any fanfare, changes the entire game.